Well, first of all, I just say Gordon Parks is one of my heroes. I'm a film historian, especially black film, and The Godfather's Oscar me show. Gordon, Ozzie Davis. So I first became aware of Gordon through his photography. Look magazine. And this is even before I wanted to be a filmmaker. When I was a kid, you know, my mother, we subscribed. Look, and my mother always point out, my late mother, Jackie, she always point out, this is Gordon's photography. This is Gordon's photos. Gordon's a black man. And so my parents were woke. Anyway, it's a little inside joke, but Gordon had so many ways to express his vision. Camera, still camera in front of his eyes, behind the director, film, and also music. And he came with some kind of, I don't want to use the word weird, of notation, the way to write out. He came up, Gordon, forget the way music's been written for hundreds of years. Gordon came with some new shit. But that was him. That was him. And I got to meet Gordon in his late years, and he was always gave me love. Always. There was a, thing between us. When I would see him, it's not like I saw him every day. (1971). Shaft. I saw it on 42nd Street. That motherfucking theater was jam-packed. And black folks were going berserk. It's like we ain't never seen no shit like this before. And then Isaac Hayes. OMG. Richard Roundtree, black leather trench coat, slapping motherfuckers. Got the lady too, Richard Roundtree. We ain't seen that image of a strong black man, kicking ass, taking names, and then of course, along with a film by his son, his late son, Superfly. In my opinion, I think Gordon got defensive in later years because this started a whole trend of, you might say, of the black exploitation film. But you could make an argument, Melvin and People. I forgot to mention Melvin also. You gotta work that out. Melvin. You gotta put Melvin in there. With Michaud, Gordon, Ozzie Davis. And I'm going to say Michael Schultz. He's overlooked. Michael Schultz, director of my favorite films, Cooley High. And when Richard Pryor was the biggest star in Hollywood, Michael Schultz, a brother from here in New York, doing off-Broadway plays, he was directing it. So that was really like the gang. But I remember I was a sophomore, John Dewey High School in Coney Island. And I'm talking about the Times Square taxi driver. Not this Disneyland shit. I'm talking about back in the day. We used to call Times Square 40 doo-wop. We called it 40 doo-wop. And I remember one time, Bruce Lee, I think it was Five Fingers of Death, some Bruce Lee film. And when the movie came out, like 2,000 kids would run up and down the street doing flying kicks and knocking themselves up the head with nunchucks. I mean, I'm talking about Times Square. That's where you went to see a movie. And that's why I went to see Shaft. Now, I know they had, I didn't go to Harlem to see a film. I think they also might have been playing films Apollo 2. But that was just an era. And also, I'd like to add, 71, Marvin Gaye's What's Going On came out in 71. So, Shaft, What's Going On, Vietnam, there's a lot of shit happening in 71. I mean, those were volatile years in America. The anti-Vietnam War, the anti-Vietnam War movement. So it was like Nixon, Tricky Dick, and it's like shit was jumping off in America. And Gordon was a part of that. Gordon was right up in there. John Shaft represented black manhood. Like, we're done with them handkerchief head Negroes. The Uncle Toms. Yazza Mazza. Mazza we sick. I'm gonna curse. Them motherfucking days are over. We're black men. Descendants of African kings. We're kicking ass. And we got the ladies too. So we got it covered on all sides. and we ain't scared of white men. We ain't scared. We're gonna be respectful and righteous, but if some shit jump off, there's gonna be some consequences. And they're gonna be us. Melvin with Shaft. Gordon Jr. with Superfly. Melvin with Sweetback. I don't think it was their intention to start this genre of the black exploitation film. I never spoke to any of them about it. But when people in Hollywood see something making money, they just jumped on it and took us somewhere else. And what was so bad about, unfortunate about the black exploitation era, very few times would the story deviate from the same old thing. And eventually the black audience got tired. The excitement that was there for Superfly and Shaft and Sweetback. It was like, why they making the same motherfucking movie? It's the same formula. When they get a star, and then you had the other version with Pam Grier and Pamela Dobson, with the sexy mama. And then you get Curtis Mayfield. You get Curtis, you get Marvin Gaye, Isaac, do the soundtrack. And that was it. And the genre died out because they went to the well way too often. Well, as I tell my students at NYU, this is a motherfucking tough business. I hear that day one. That's the first thing out of my mouth. First semester, grad film, NYU. This shit is tough as a motherfucker. Or tough AF. No matter who you are as an artist, black, white, whatsoever, and you're not able to expand and grow for whatever reason, it's definitely gonna hurt your soul, because it hurts your soul because your soul is what your art is. And when you're not able to do your art, that's homicide. I wasn't looking at Gordon Park as like, let me be honest, like the Scorsese. It was the whole thing. Cause I never seen a black man. I mean, Melvin and Sweetback, but to see a hero like that, a black, John Wayne, a black Humphrey Bogart, some guys just kicking ass and taking names. So I was in high school, so it wasn't like I'm like looking at camera angles, stuff like that. I was like 2,000 black kids, going crazy in the theater, watching our brother Richard Roundtree. Let me be honest, aesthetically, I got more from Gordon from his photography than his filmmaking. Gordon had many more skills, I think, in him as a still photographer than as a filmmaker. And here's the thing: he only, how many films did he make? 3. So the more, is what I tell again. I'm gonna keep referring to it as a tenured film professor at NYU. Ang Lee, Ernest Dickerson, my classmates, class of 79. The more you do your craft, the more you're in command in your craft. And you add up Gordon's films on one hand and add up his life as a still photographer, it's not even. And also, it was his great talent as a world great but still photographers that he made the transition into film. He knew where to put the camera. That's the biggest mystery for a young filmmaker. You walk on the set and everybody's looking at you and you're looking at them and they're looking at you and you're looking at them and everybody's looking at you because we can't do shit till you tell us where you put the motherfucking camera. Gordon, that still camera, and I want to jump back to what you said. That camera in his hands was a weapon. That was a motherfucking bazooka. That wasn't no 6-shooter or rifle. When Mr. Gordon Parks had that camera in his hand, that was a bazooka. That was a weapon. And the photographs, his body of work is a testament to that. Here's the thing. I love Gordon. And, I didn't see him every day. When I would see him, gala or whatnot, we just had great respect for each other. And he's one of the guys, along with Melvin, the Godfather Oscar Micheaux, Ozzie Davis. Without them, I would not be the filmmaker I am. So for me, that's enough. That's in my brain. So I never was like, I gotta do this. I gotta do this because Melvin did this. I'm gonna do this because Ozzie did this way, or this with Gordon. That was never in my thinking. But that I knew, without them, I would not be a filmmaker. Oh yeah, I mean definitely. I don't think that just because I never had the mindset because you're a still photographer, doesn't mean that you're not telling the story. I mean, still photography is a storytelling, and the great photographers, they're telling the story one snapshot. Films is a bunch of going past the cameras of 24 frames per second. A great still tower is getting. There's not 24 frames. They getting that motherfucker in one frame. And it could be a whole movie, a whole life, just in that one frame. I think sometimes his fashion photography gets overlooked. You know, we're gonna put Gordon over here in the ghetto, in Brazil, in Harlem. Look at the black people, downtrodden. But his fashion shit was fly as a motherfucker. So even he gets pigeonholed, you know, like a certain. But he was versatile. And I hope in the future people, you know, they dig more into his fashion photography, because that shit was fly. Grew up here in the People's Republic of Brooklyn, New York. I went to public school from kindergarten to John Deere High School in Coney Island. I remember it was second and third grade. Just back then, they didn't mail the postcards. You bring it. So one year, I got a B plus, and I ran home. I was so happy. I got a B plus. My mother looked at me and said, "Why not you? Why didn't you not get a plus?" I said, "Mom, I got a B plus." She said, "Your Jewish classmates are getting A plus. You gotta be 10 times better." And at that time, I said, "Mommy, that's not fair." My mother, who could curse, said, "Fuck fair." I'm like, well, I'm second, third grade. I don't know what she's talking about. But my mother was not the only parent, or my mother was not the only mother or father that told their children that this world is not fair, this world is not made up for you to succeed, and you can't use that excuse, and you just gotta excel. Fuck fair. This the way shit is set up, and if you're not 10 times, if you don't at least try to put in the work to be 10 times better, you're not gonna make it. And I heard that from my mother. And what you just said, it sounds like Gordon heard that from his parents too. I mean, that was common. And today, what's common is black men having that conversation with their sons about, you know, when you leave the house. On Malcolm X, the late great Ozzie Davis was in many of my films. His lovely wife, Ruby Dee, too. We brought back Ozzie to the studio to re-record the eulogy for the end of Malcolm X, because he had delivered it. Ozzie had delivered the eulogy. And there's a montage edited by my great editor, Barry Alexander Brown, and many of those photographs were Gordon Parks, especially the stuff dealing with the Nation of Islam. And we're very happy that we got the permission. Gordon gave us the permission to use those historic photographs and montage of Malcolm X. My situation with Malcolm X, I took a flight to Chicago to sit down with Honorable Minister Farrakhan, because I don't want no problems. I don't want no problem with the food of Islam. I don't want no problem with the Nation. I don't want no problem with Minister Farrakhan. So, I went to Chicago to kiss the ring. And surprisingly, Minister Farrakhan said to me, "Spike, I respect you." And he was very honest. Be very careful what you say about Mr. Muhammad. He wasn't concerned how we dealt with Malcolm X. He said, Spike, let me tell you, be very careful how you deal with the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And afterwards, I think later on, a year after I saw him, he said he liked the film very much. But here's the thing, though. You're not going to get the great photographs you get of whether there's somebody on the street or famous people if you don't establish trust. And Gordon had that gift. Gordon come in, light up a room, gave everybody respect, no matter if you were Gloria Vanderbilt or some bum on the street. You're a human being. I care about you. Can I take a picture? But you gotta do that first. You just can't be sticking the camera in people's face. You can do that, but you're not gonna get a good picture. You're not gonna get if you do that, people are gonna shut off. It's only when people feel safe that they open themselves up, and then the camera will capture the essence. So I used the word bazooka before. But before his camera was bazooka, it was a flower and a glass of wine. So his camera had that. Gordon was slick, you know. He wouldn't put the bazooka in your face first. It'd be like a smile, a flower, glass of Italian red, you know, and then comes out the bazooka to capture that moment. At least with the films I've done. You gotta ask people personal questions about very painful moments in their life. For example, Four Little Girls, which is about the bombing of the 16th Street Birmingham Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama. And when you're talking to someone whose sister was dynamite, blew their body apart, that's not easy. I had an advantage. I was not some motherfucker off the street. So people seen my films and knew the type of filmmaker and what type of films they are. So that gave me an advantage. But it was still, you know, you gotta, it's what I said earlier. If you're a subject of a still shoot or a film camera, if your subjects aren't comfortable, you're not going to get what you need. You're not going to get it. If people are on a photo shoot, whether it be a fashion or just portraiture or in a documentary, it's the job of the artist to have your subject comfortable. And sometimes that means taking him out to dinner, talking to him on the phone, especially if you don't know them. I mean, if you can, at least have a comment. For me, at least if it's possible. The first time you talk to them should not be the day of. Sometimes it's not possible. But if you can make it work, you know, if you can work it out like that, it just gives you so much. As I said before, I know it sounds like a broken record, but people have to be comfortable. Yeah. Gordon's work for Life magazine was groundbreaking. As you said, you know, this description that very few black folks get everything in jet. So Gordon's photographs were going to millions of American homes And his photographs of black people was their only interaction with black people. And I don't think that can be underestimated. Crooklyn is autobiographical. Alfie Woodard played my late mother. Delroy played my father. That's about the Lees growing up in Brooklyn, down the block over there, on Washington Park, Fort Greene. We were the first black family moving in Cobble Hill, Stone Italian American neighborhood. My mother said, I want to own a home. My mother wanted to buy a brownstone. So we bought our brownstone for $45,000. 1969. So Crooklyn, which is written by my brother Sankey, my sister Joie, and myself, is about the Lees growing up in Brooklyn, and I don't think Gordon had nothing to do with that. That was just our family. Well, I think I'm going third or fourth decade. I can't keep up, and I think over the years, because of films like Do the Right Thing and Malcolm X, and the last two, Black Clans and Five Bloods, it was like. But if you look at the overall body of work, not every film is like that. Example, we were talking about Crooklyn. The Crooklyn, this black family growing up in Brooklyn during the late '60s, early '70s. So I think I think when people use one word to label somebody, I just think that does a disservice to, especially artists. If you have an artist to say, this put one word attached to an artist, I think is not thoughtful. And I'm going to use an example of an activist. I'm a filmmaker. I'm a storyteller. So I've told stories with Michael Jordan, a 30-second commercial, two 4-hour documentaries on Katrina, when the levees broke, and if God is willing, the creek don't rise. 3-hour epic, Malcolm X. So I'm gonna try to put my storytelling into categories: 30-second commercials, documentaries, feature films. It's storytelling for me. I put it all in the heading of storytelling. I think Gordon liked being famous. And there's nothing wrong with that. Gordon was like, he was on the town. Like he was hitting the spots, and he was living his life. And why should he be shut up in a room? He's in New York City. He's in Paris. He's in London. Go, go, go. So God bless him. I mean, he was enjoying his life, as we all should. If people know your face, you can't be anonymous. Unless that's just the way it is. I mean, that's the way it is. I'm telling you, and it's the truth. People know me. Don't even know. People have to see my face to know it's me. They can tell by my walk. Swear to God. They're like, yo, Spike. I'm like, who's calling me? I gotta walk, and people just know it. Pigeon-toed. And I'm not mad. That's just the way it is. James Vanessy. In fact, in that room over there, the wall is wall to wall of James Vanity's. One of the most favorite ones being Marcus Garvey's in there. Jack Johnson signing a contract. for a Fight, Father Grace, the Black Yankees, James Vandercy. Oh, my Avedon too. I got, when Malcolm X came out, I called Richard Avedon because he took a great portrait of Malcolm and he signed it to Spike. That's hanging on the wall. I recently bought 2 Gordon Park prints. Leonard Bernstein and Aaron Copland. Just bought them, and they can go up on the wall. Famous people wanted their portrait to be taken like Gordon Park, so it goes both ways, because they get a million requests. And I think that Leonard Bernstein, Aaron Copland, and we go on, they knew who Gordon Parks was. They knew the shit he was doing. He's a great photographer. So they were honored for Gordon Parks to take their portrait. I know that for sure. Another one of my favorite photographers, Irving Penn. On the wall over there is the great Irving Penn. I like his series where he will put people in the corner. I think anytime people of color see someone attain a position, it gives you, it's easy. Most recent is Kamala with Howard University. Sister. And I go by the one drop rule. She's just black. I know. Kamala's black. She went to Howard, AKA one drop rule. So the same impact that Obama had on young black boys, the same impact young black girls that Kamala's making them. And so when you see Gordon Parks, anybody who's a first, Jackie Robinson, Tiger, I'm forgetting about the gymnast, especially when you see us excelling in fields like we're not known for. It gives you the power to say, she's black, he's black, they did it, I want to do it, I could do it too. I do think that if you're of something, you're of the essence. So it might give you ability to see something that somebody might not see. My newest film, The Five Bloods, begins with Muhammad Ali, archival footage. And the film ends with Dr. Martin Luther King giving one of his great speeches at Riverside Church. And a year later, to that day, he was assassinated. Ali, with his very famous quote, which begins The Five Bloods, "No Viet Cong ever called me nigger." And Muhammad was an outspoken critic of the war, an immoral war. And what's really, and for me, I'm going to talk about Muhammad Ali and Dr. King. Dr. King, I know what happens to a lot of our heroes. They're like softened. One of the most famous images of Muhammad Ali now is lighting the torch in Atlanta, and his hand is shaking from Parkinson's. And people forget. At one point in history of time, United States of America, Muhammad Ali was the most hated man in America. But they want to, let's not talk about that. Dr. King spoke of peace and love. But when Dr. King came out and started talking about how immoral the Vietnam War, we are not hearing that. This weekend, all we're going to hear is again and again and again, I have a dream. That is not the only speech Dr. King, a Morehouse brother, no, I don't want to hit the mic. Morehouse, the house. That is not the only speech Dr. Martin Luther King ever. They keep going back and back. I have a dream. Where the speeches about how moral the Vietnam War is. And I don't think it's coincidence he was assassinated within a year after talking, because when you talk about anti-war, you're talking about you're going up against the economy of war. War is a big business, and he wasn't affecting the economy. Desegregating lunch counters. But you talking about Vietnam War? You talking about Dow Chemical, who was making napalm, and we go down the line. That's big business, and them cats got together and said, he got to go. He got to go. So I have a problem how our strong black men, it's like they've been, in the later years, once they've gone, they've been denuded. Like their nuts, their testicles have been like cut off. And the powers that be want to present this image, this docile image. Muhammad Ali was stripped of the heavyweight title. I can't remember exactly how many years he lost. Prime of his fighting physicality. That's why he begins Five Bloods, and that's why Dr. King ends Five Bloods. Two great humanitarians who made sacrifices, who made choices knowing what would be the ramifications of those choices. The sad thing is complex and tragic. And look, I'm not saying nothing that's not known public, but Malcolm got the word. Ali got the word. You can't hang with Malcolm. Malcolm's been excommunicated. And that was it. I'm gonna show you some Gordon Park pictures now in succession. Had to get permission from my queen, Tanya, to take him off the wall. And this is such a beautiful photograph of Muhammad. Looked like he just finished sparring. And at the bottom right here, a thin silver Sharpie signed by Gordon. This is a very special photograph, and we know that Gordon and Muhammad were tight. So this is hanging on the wall. Hanging on the wall. This is one of the greatest photographs ever taken. I don't know the backstory, but to me, it's black people live in a hostile environment, and we're living in the tunnels, underground, and we're coming up from underground before we make a run for it. Or looking around like, see if the motherfucking coast is clear. Again, signed by my brother, Gordon. The title is Invisible Man, the title of one of the greatest novels ever written by brother Ralph Ellison. But this tells us, for me, you know what? I just thought about this. This picture could have been taken during slavery. We're trying to watch out for the motherfucking slave catchers. And my brother here ran off the plantation. And he's being chased. And a motherfucking bloodhounds. They're them bloodhounds. Even today. And he's running for his life. And this looks like this picture is taken like just when the sun just comes out. And my brother man here, getting away from Mazza to make a clean break for the North. For the North. To get out of this southern state. And who knows? Maybe even hook up with Harriet Tubman. Get to freedom. Again, signed by Gordon Parks. Taken off the walls. The Lee family. The Lees have 4 signed Gordon Park prints. I'm showing you 3 to 4. And this morning, Tanya told me, when he's going back on the wall, he said, don't come back tonight unless these are with you. Tanya said, do not bring your black ass home tonight unless you have these 3 signed Gordon Park prints with you. This is Ella Watson, American Gothic. But this is the rare one. The rare one. The one everybody sees that's great. But they ain't got this one. And it's not signed either. This, again, this photograph, to me, talks about how our ancestors, from 1619, when that first slave ship hit Jamestown, Virginia, my ancestors, we have fought and died for this country, the United States of America. And this country, we've loved this country, we died for this country, but the love has not been returned. That's what this photograph says to me, with his American flag draped, and Miss Watson, you know, probably a maid doing her job to the best of her abilities and trying to make a better life for her children. And that's just a generational thing. And for me, it's photographs like the last 3 photographs I showed demonstrate to me the power of a Gordon Parks. He's a bad motherfucker. In fact, I'm quoting Shaft. Shh, shut your mouth. Shaft, he's a bad boy. And you could take out the word Shaft and say Gordon. Shaft's a bad motherfucker. Shut your mouth. Quoting the great song, the title song from Shaft, Isaac Hayes. And so this is why, because everything I said, that's why I'm proud to hang Gordon Park works in my house. And I see it every single day. Signed!